let me introduce to you, to the world, to the universe, Mr. Jamie Clark.
Ow!
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Bob, you have such a great way, man. It makes me look good. Hey, I want to get right into this. Today's guest is Federico Eriksson, who likes to be referred to as Fede, and Jedi Fede, as a matter of fact. And I just want to read to you a little bit about him. And he is also the host of a podcast on Roku called Five Little Stones. And I had an honor of being a guest on his show. We had a great conversation. So I wanted to make sure that we could bring that here and have some more conversations as well. Now, from Fede, I first heard about auras and the third eye when I was a kid, and that fascinated me. I learned to meditate from a Tibetan Lama and have continued to study different techniques to advance in my spiritual journey. I am a cancer survivor that is taking advantage of my second chance at life to make a positive impact in the lives of others through healing, inspiration, meditation, and motivation. I teach workshops via Zoom and in person, and I am part of the Extraterrestrial Contact Group RAHMA, RAHMA. May I introduce Fede? Fede, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here and with all your audience. Thank you, Bob, for taking care of the technical part and making this amazing. I'm so excited just listening to the intro. So thank you, guys.
Now, if you would, what got you into this? Because I know at young you were aware of it, but what got you to want to follow into this, to connect with it?
The best way I can answer that question is with an old principle that says, when the student is ready, the master appears. And at certain points during my life and my spiritual growth, I must have reached a certain level where I'm able to take the next class and keep on learning and keep on moving. So in a nutshell, that's how I started, and that's why I'm here.
Beautiful. And had a life-changing circumstance that you beat it. Can you share what got you to get into this healing modalities as well, through these other avenues, through music and art and write, all of these different things that come from you, and it could have been a whole nother ball game. How did you heal yourself?
Well, first of all, I think I've always had the compassion for the fellow human beings. And in my heart, there's always been this desire to help people. And one of the ways you can help others is by helping them heal themselves. I even considered studying to be a doctor. However, I get wheezy when I see blood, so that just wasn't my avenue. However, I still wanted to be able to help people out. So that's when, again, when the student is ready, the master appears. Somehow I must have had the correct thoughts and feelings that I sent out to the universe, and it brought back the answers to what I was looking for, which was how to heal myself and help others heal themselves. And I really had to put the money where my mouth is when out of the blue, suddenly one day I get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And the doctor that diagnosed me wasn't the nicest person out there. And he really had a big impact in my life, especially because I was very vulnerable when I received those news.
And what got you connected to the Lama? How did you meet this person? Because not a lot of people have met a Lama that we're aware of.
Yes, I cherish that workshop. I was about 14 years old. And at the time, I was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And there was this lady that she studied Tibetan Buddhism. And somehow she invited this Lama to Puerto Vallarta to give this seminar. And I saw the posting I think it was just one of those printed out papers on a street post or something, and I immediately signed up, and I was very excited, especially because, like you mentioned in the introduction, when I was a kid, my mom would read the books from Lobsang Rampa, and it talks about the Tibet and how they have the third eye and they can see chakras and auras, and that just fascinated me. So to have the opportunity to study with a real life Lama, it was just incredible. I couldn't pass on the opportunity.
Well, and how exciting, from 14 years old, the universe brought this Lama to you. You're like, hey, and so that soul searching from a young age seems to have activated you in a beautiful way. Now, if I may, you're also a healer in your own way, and you do it through a number of modalities. Would you share with me and with us how you started getting into this level of healing in this way through music and writing and other aspects?
I think small steps. You take the first step, and that leads you to the second, and before you know it, you're walking, and then you're running. And I've really been in the search and the pursuit, first of all, for my own spiritual growth and development, but also in my pursuit to be able to have a positive impact in people's lives. So it's like when you see a good movie, you go to the theater and you just have a blast, whether it's action or comedy, and you're so excited that you want to share that to the world. Like, you want to tell all your friends, hey, go check this movie out. It's amazing. It's funny, or it's blah, whatever. So that was my experience. I was learning all these things for me, for my personal growth, and I encountered some things that I felt were amazing, and I just wanted to share that with all my friends, and eventually people I didn't even know, like, oh, you're interested in this? Let me tell you about it.
And so at that young of an age, you're already ready for this life experience, but how did other people treat you when you were younger? And did you share some of these experiences that they were aware of?
It was very interesting, but first of all, I grew up in a very difficult childhood. My stepdad, he hit me and he abused me. I had to work since I was 9, 10 years old. I was out on the street selling peepholes. Now almost every house has them, but before I would go door to door, and anyone that their door didn't have that little peephole to see who's knocking, I would sell it, and I would have to drill the hole and install it. And I hated it because most of the time my stepdad had to come with me so he could drill the hole. Eventually I was able to do it on my own, and it was just not a very good time. So I think that also contributed to me awakening in being in touch with my extra senses, because I remember when he was out of town, he would never say when he'd be back, and we didn't have cell phones back then. And I remember having just this emptiness feeling in my stomach, and I knew that he was going to arrive that day. And sure enough, shortly after he showed up, I'm like, oh. So I think that also contributed to help me connect with my inner senses, so to speak.
Well, and you're like I do, you never really know what a person's life experience has been as they sit before you. And I got to say, I have a lot of what you experienced as a young child. And that was my real parents, amazing. The stepdad was a D-bag, and he would beat me in every way. And I would literally get physically sick, nauseous every time he'd pull into that driveway. And so for that, that also got me to tap into myself, because there wasn't a lot of positive energy vibes from him. So I needed to validate myself in my own way. Now, in addition, I find it interesting that even from a young child, you were physically and metaphysically opening doors of consciousness. You're a kid knocking on the door, and then, oh, what are you going to do? You want to put something so that they can see through it. Kind of like that third eye window. And yet, even if the door's closed, they still have a viewing capacity. In that, it sounds like you, like me, have grown into your spiritual gifts beautifully. Having enough guts to do this, and then if you want to do it publicly, to make sure that you're comfortable, because there's a lot of fear about not being understood, or, all of those things. And for you, it sounds like you found your solidness, though That younger time was a life changer. You could have graduated life and you stayed here. What if there's a potential that some of that was your soul essence, that it was right at that crux to go, I could either stay or go, that created a stronger neural soul way with the other side? Did your spirituality seem to pick up pace after the cancer?
Yes. I mean, I had already spent many years studying and practicing and healing and doing all kinds of amazing things, but that was, I think, like a test, like when you're at the end of high school and now you have the finals and you have to really study and use everything that you learned, not only in high school, but in elementary and in sometimes things you learned outside of school, and all comes into play for you to pass that test. And your heart is beating and you feel that, like, you want to pass it, of course. It was that in many ways. And I think definitely it was a crossroad where I could literally have left this world. And for whatever reason, I'm still here. I was giving a second opportunity at life. And I will say this to you or anyone. In reality, God is who healed me. And he's the one who carried me over. I always think of that poem of Footprints in the Sand. That was my story when I was going through that dark valley, because honestly, I don't have the human strength to be able to go through that and come out alive. So it wasn't me. Somehow I was tested, and I must have done something right, where I was giving another opportunity, some overtime, to go ahead and continue living. And I feel that, and I am thankful. And not only that, but that gives me special motivation that I really want to make the most of the time that I have remaining, whether it's one day, whether it's years. I really don't know when God is going to call me, but whatever it is, I want to make sure that I make the most of it, because whenever I'm called in front of the Father, I can say, it was worth it that you gave me that extra overtime, because look, I was able to help so many people because of that. And that's what's in my heart.
And you had to first help yourself, because now it's real. Now you can speak about it and going firsthand experience, not secondhand. That's when it gets real for you. And being able to do this and realize that the universe, God, is everywhere and everything. Do you think that because you were certainly chosen, but other people might have circumstances in that capacity where they were chosen? Because I think, just from my awareness, the universe is always for us, will help us in every way if we choose to open up. That's why I was saying your empowerment was to have enough guts to go, okay, I'm not really sure about all this stuff, but it's interesting, man. It's vibing beautifully. And now that you had that life-changing experience, you not only found yourself within life, but it sounds like you found the life within you. And becoming that inner space astronaut, discovering who you truly are, which is everything. How has that helped you to deal with other people in your day-to-day living? Do you view connections and communications with other people differently than you used to before this experience?
I do. First of all, I think the biggest thing from coming ahead out of that situation is that, like you mentioned it, I've lived it. I was there. Like, it's not the same if I tell you, well, I read this on this book, and it makes sense, and I could speak beautifully about the topic, but I have that experience firsthand of what it was like, because it's easy to sit here and tell you, it was difficult and I really struggled, but there is no amount of words that within 5 minutes or an hour I can describe what it was like to be every day, whether it was in chemotherapy, not knowing if I was going to make it another day, being nauseous, throwing up, losing weight, losing my hair, having fear. And first for me, because I was face to face with my mortality, I was told, start putting your affairs in order because there's no guarantee. That's where I was at. However, somehow I came through, and I can speak of it in a different light, not just from here, but also from here. And I can honestly say that I've learned a lot, and it's humbled me, and how I interact with people nowadays. First of all, more compassion, because what I suffered, a lot of people are suffering or worse. There's people that had it many times worse than anything I could have lived. So there's a lot of pain and suffering in the world. And that's why one of the things I like to do is try to help people heal themselves. But not only that, try to educate people, not because I'm better than anyone, but because I've lived through certain situations and I found these little pebbles that have pulled me through and that have helped me overcome. And just like that great movie, I want to share those with everybody. Like, hey, this helped me. Here it is. Like, if it helps you, amazing. If it doesn't, well, I contributed. But I would hate to keep my mouth shut out of embarrassment, out of what will people think, and not help somebody just because I'm embarrassed or, what will people think or talk about me. Honestly, that has been something I've overcome through that, because I have a story like when I was being diagnosed, and they would call another doctor, and it reminded me of that movie Airplane. I don't know if you saw that.
It's been a long time, but yeah.
Where this lady was like freaking out and get all of her, and then there was a line of like 50 people. That's how I felt. I'm there like naked in the examination room, and they, hey Willie, come over here. Hey Sam, check this out. So embarrassment went out the window.
And being exposed that fully with your soul open, did that help you to heal fairly quickly with the knowingness to go, only I can do it, but knowing that I have gotten this okay, that I can make it, and then make your own, in this case, a healing modality of the chemo and what you needed to do. But in using that modality, what modalities did you learn that you help train people to do healings? What are yours?
Well, the bottom line is that no one can heal anyone. You heal yourself. And if anyone is going to heal you, it's yourself, God through you, but only with your permission. The only thing that I can do is share with you what has helped me and how I healed myself. And if any of that works for you, I'm just thankful that I can share it with somebody. So hands down, I will never say, oh, I'm the person that healed you, or no, because first of all, you have to be truthful, and whoever is healing, it's yourself, God through you. I'm just the facilitator, the coach, telling you, if you're on the boxing ring, if you win the fight, if you knock out the opponent, it's because you did it. I was just yelling some words and saying, hey, duck and use that jab more or whatever. And if that helped you, well, I'm excited to be part of it. But I will never claim that, oh, yeah, because I'm not here to feed the ego or to speak nonsense. I'm here to try to help others as much as I can out of my personal experience and what I have learned that has helped me.
And I think that that's a big point, is the universe to me is always talking with us, but are we listening? And sometimes those life-changing experiences will get you to listen really quickly. Now, with this, because I know that you are a facilitator as a healer, but what modalities do you teach others? What do you train others with? I've studied
many different techniques. Out of all of them, the one that I resonate best with, because it's the most effective that I found, and it's just amazing, and I love to share this. Every workshop I've had, what really thrills me is when my students come back and tell me, hey, I've had these patients and they've just been healed and I've helped them. That's my win. When I'm able to, because I'm just one person, I can't reach out to everybody that needs the help. But if I can share this knowledge with a handful and then more people, and they can share it with others, and eventually we can reach the whole world and we can just be healthier and happier, because healing comes from the soul, not the body. The body is the last place where you see the disease. You got to start at the soul. So not trying to run around the bush, but the technique that I like to share with people is healing through universal energy. It's just being able to channel that energy, and it's, again, God healing through you. So the healer is God, right? And the person.
You know, and I think being able to get an end result, excuse me, of these healing modalities, because you could work all you want, but if you don't get a result, whatever, you're just kind of wasting your time. And being able to do this capacity, one of my favorite modalities is quantum healing. I'm a Reiki Master teacher and a quantum healer, a variety of other things. But within that, the quantum rocked my soul, because when I was learning it, you know, we would practice on other students there. In one particular one, I had learned some of the technique, and they always call it have soft hands, you know, and you're not doing it, just like you said, it's just let it flow through you. Now, we had a target, and the person that I was working on, it was just myself working on her, and she was complaining about her neck being really out of whack and just tough for a long time. And so I'm just doing the healing and doing the breath work and all of that. And as I'm sitting here, I had my hands gently on her neck. I felt her whole neck realign. And I'm like, that wasn't freaking me. That was the flow, man. And to see her, I didn't say a word to her. I want to see if she's going to say something in a response. After we were done, 15 minutes, she's like, oh, my neck went, I was hooked. I was hooked. And that kind of a capacity, you know, is like that they're always giving us information. Do you want to listen? And do you want to work with that information? That's why, you know, you like me, once you've gone through it, okay, you could speak about it because it is firsthand experience. But also, people now know you can work through this, you can live, because having to watch my whole family graduate every 2 years from cancer tore my soul. So I certainly understand a lot of the dynamics that you're going with. Now, in addition, kind of like the stepfather, which was my circumstance, did his experiences help you in later life? Because for me, the stepdad would beat me all the time, you know, and I was just terrified. And he's like, someday you'll thank me. And I'm like, oh, he's freaking right. He taught me what not to do. God. So, you know, I never, ever hit my boys. They know if dad says it once, he means it. And that was a huge dynamic that I could have been the other spectrum going, I was beat all the time, so I'm going to make other people feel it. I'm like, I freaking feel this. I want other people to feel their happiness, their love, the fullness of their soul. And coming from the fullness of the heart and soul with living, not so much the bottom of the heart and soul with surviving. Because most of us just exist, and we don't always get a chance to have our own awareness of this life experience through different avenues, like yours, like the life-changing experience that not only did it help you to save your own life, but you also wanted to give tools and techniques to other people that if they even choose to listen, I'm kind of right there with you going, you don't have to listen to nothing, but I'll speak with what I've done. It works for me. That they can put that stuff to the test and then get a result. Okay, you know, now there's this dynamic. Because I've always been exactly like you, and as no one's ever the healer, they're only the facilitator. Each person heals themselves, but you can be a really good facilitator. There was, I think, a homeless guy a couple of thousand years ago that pretty much reached the entire planet. Right, and they didn't have the internet back then. That's the power that we all have. We are the Christ consciousness. Have you shared some of your experiences of meeting extraterrestrials? When did you first make your connection to ETs and got you interested in this?
Well, before we touch the ET subject, I just want to close up on responding to the question you asked about what I learned from my stepfather and that experience. And first of all, I was very scared. I was frightened. If I heard anyone yell, I would just be trying to hide and sweating bullets. It was just a fear that undescribable.
Yeah.
I couldn't even put my finger on it. And one of the things that I learned, that you can't run from your fears. At some point you have to turn around and face them. And that was one of the biggest things that I came out of that situation that benefited me. Because when cancer started to chase me, like my stepdad did, and when cancer wanted to kill me, I could have kept running like I did when I was a kid, running away from my stepdad. Or I could turn around and face my fear and take that face on and develop that courage, because that's the only thing that I really had control over. And courage doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It means that you're going to do what you have to do, even in spite that you're terrified. And that's what I had to do. And that was one of the biggest things that I'm thankful for, that horrible experience, that it somehow put me in a corner like a wounded animal, that it just pushed me to fight back. And also, it has been a great teacher for forgiveness. And it makes me think of a story that I once read, where there is a child of a person that is an alcoholic and beat them and had all these horrible things. And there's two children in that same situation. One of them turned out an alcoholic and just repeated the story with his own kids. So they asked him, "Hey, why are you an alcoholic?" "Well, because I learned from my dad." And they asked this other child that grew up, and he was a model, an example of a human being. They asked him, "How is it that you are such a good person?" "Because I learned from my dad." So it's not the circumstance sometimes, it's how you react to it.
Right.
And that's really important.
See, and that's a big thing, is the reacting, because so many of us will give the power to other people rather than realizing it is our own self-realization. Meaning, on average, we'll tend to do this: "You make me happy," or "You make me angry." You don't make me anything. I make myself happy or angry in response to that. And for me, if I'm getting angry in response, I'll stop bringing that stuff into my life so I don't have to keep getting pissed about. Because just like you know, when you're feeling helpless and you're beat and you're in that reactive state to go, "God, I'm just surviving life." And then other people are involved too that you can't make a difference on. For me, there were times I'd be waking up and I heard gunshots. And then other times I'd wake up and there were puddles of blood all through the house. And I'm like, am I going to find Mom dead? You do that on a day-to-day basis, oh, it'll shape you real quick. And from that helplessness until that day that I took my power back and I grabbed him by the throat saying, "You will never, ever touch my family again." And to see the fear in his eyes, I was like, good, that's all I wanted. That balance point for me helped heal my whole soul after 10 years of abuse and all that. But it wasn't just me. I felt so hopeless and pissed that he was doing this to my mom too, my best friend. That was really challenging. Now, just like you, and you know those other two kids, you could have perpetuated that pattern or changed it. I've never hit the boys and I hardly ever drink. I'll have a couple of beers here and there, but I was with that, the functioning alcoholics. I never knew a day when they were sober, ever. Crazy, but you know, you start to find your balance point in all the craziness that's there to go, okay, I've got to be me. I've got to find myself again, because so many of these distractions in life and the fear of where we've been is not productive, because most of us will try to turn around and face that fear. But what a lot of us tend to do is we tend to bring that stuff that's from behind us in our past into the present, going, I sure hope I'm not going to magnetize that crap again. And then, you know, we'll get similar patterns and be like, why do I keep getting that? And I just make them aware, you know, just as a potential, that if you keep coming from the problem, you're going to get more problem. If you create a solution the best that you can, you will get more of the solution. because for most of my life, I was always trying to change those problems and they wouldn't really change. And I asked Chi, my master guide, I'm like, Chi, what the flag nog? I'm trying to change these problems, right? But they're not doing it. And what do I need to do? He's like, well, instead of trying to change the problems, see the solution differently. I'm like, okay. Because the very same father figure for those two kids, right? One was a D-bag, the other was a learning experience of refinement and soul expression, to go both from the same source. Wait a minute, sounds like we're all from the same source. Are you going to listen to Dad? Will it allow you yourself the empowerment to realize, take the good qualities that feel good and keep them, the rest let them go? How did it feel to re-identify you as you were growing into your life after you beat this life-changing circumstance?
Well, it's still happening, because it's not a one and you're done. It's more of a road path, a lifestyle, than a destination, right? And going back to the ETs, this was also part of everything, because everything is connected. But first of all, when I was young, like in most of us, I had all those questions like, where do I come from? Like, who's God? What happens when you die? Are there ETs out there? And all of these different questions. And I would ask everybody. And at some points I would stop asking, because I wasn't getting anywhere, except, like you just are always interested in all these crazy topics. Like, well, it's because I really want to know my origin. I want to know the truth. And I feel like there's something they're not telling us. And the way I see it, it's similar like that little video game, like Mario Brothers, where, you're moving along this world, and suddenly you jump and bloop, and you hit a square where there wasn't something there, and you found a coin. And that has been kind of what I've been stumbling into, knowledge and information and things that it is there. And you can feel it and touch it, and it's real. And nobody told me about it. I kind of stumbled on it, but then I started meeting other people that stumble into other things, or some people that knew what these things were, and learning from them and just sharing experiences. And one of these, since I was young, I always, out of common sense, it made sense to me that we're not alone in the universe. Like, how conceited are we that in this universe that has millions and billions of galaxies and suns and planets, and oh yeah, we're it. It doesn't get better than this. Like, really? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And back then, because I grow from the age where I come from the days where, oh, it's impossible because there's no water in any other planets except Earth. Well, and I thought, well, how do you know? Because science says so. And every time I hear the science proves this and that, it reminds me when we thought Earth was flat. And, when Christopher Columbus was thinking about going to the Indias, because he had this theory that the Earth was round, and it's like, no, that's impossible, because science doesn't admit that, doesn't prove that. But that doesn't mean that isn't true. So every time I hear something that science hasn't discovered yet, and the skepticism, when it's really skepticism, just blind and won't even listen to logic or common sense, I just think of them like, oh, they're back in the medieval times where they think everything is a witch, or the Earth is flat and there's nothing except what they can see. So that's something that has helped me be able to see far or more than what's been proven or what has been accepted. Because sometimes there are things that have been proven, but they aren't accepted in the society, even though it's true. So it's humanity is an interesting species. in that sense.
Oh, yeah. And there are so many. But, in addition, I've done a lot of scientific studies. I wanted to put the practicality to this spirituality stuff. And now science is proving, they're validating a lot of these spiritual things that we've been talking about. And, and one of them is we're eternal beings. And people are like, how are you eternal? Well, I believe scientifically they have validated that humans are basically energy, vibrational light beings. Now, with that definition of being energy, I believe in quantum physics, they've also validated that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So now if we realize that this universe is only one of infinity universes, and that to me, each universe is slightly offset, kind of like a deck of cards. If you zip fan them out, each deck is that universal one. Time travel is very real. They're now scientifically starting to validate that past, present, and future are happening now. And wait a minute, we found an entranceway into the fifth dimension. Really? It's always been there. It's a new awareness of an old experience. That I'm starting to see a lot more people make their connections, not only through the scientific aspect, but through the blending of science and spirituality. Because when they can put the practicality to this, okay, scientifically it's quantified, systematized, categorized, okay. Then it's a little bit more accepting. But that's the practicality is question everything. I always say, please be skeptical about everything, question everything, just be open. That way you don't go over that edge, because there's that fine line between doing this and that other house. Or some sane people just don't understand what's going on. And the ability to make those connections in another reality, meaning for me, my first initiation was at 5 years old. And I was walking from the living room into the kitchen. And as I was crossing the threshold, I was just stopped in my tracks. And my mom was a couple of feet behind me. And she was starting to get, are you okay? What's going on? And this warmth, it always seems to be a warmth, just washed over me. And then floating above the kitchen table off to the left-hand side is Jesus, the Christ, with his arms down like this, beautiful smile, and he had spaceships over his shoulders. And I'm like, what the? And so I didn't quite understand that for the visual. Now, my mom was freaking out because she wasn't seeing anything. She's like, are you okay? What's going on? And so it lasted about 10 seconds. And after that, I got out, and back then we didn't have computers. So we went to the typewriter and typed the whole experience up. And at the end, I felt compelled to take that out and write, P.S. I was not afraid. And now, many years later, I found that, this is not the only planet that the Christ consciousness has connected with. And, just from my awareness, I always have those oddball thought things going, well, let's see, because pretty much everyone looks human on this planet, like Jesus and angels, and they all look all human. And my thing is, do you really think that they look the same on other worlds as they do here? Because if they do, and they stay that way, that would be like other planets' ascended masters coming here and staying in their original form, which is 8 heads, purple, 40 arms and legs, and people would be like, what the? So it's about comfort that, to me, the Christ consciousness we had to embody as a person, otherwise it wouldn't have been there. JC is just like all of us going, hey man, when I do, you can do it even more. You want to do it? Because I'm knocking on the door of your consciousness. Do you want to open it? Or would you like to put a little peephole through and see it anyhow? Like, I don't know, I just did it. Yeah, huh? When you can look back in your life and go, I didn't realize I've always been in that vibe. I just was seeing it differently. Literally a door, and it was physical. But now as I've gained my spiritual awareness and always eternal growth-seeking beings, I'm learning that a lot of that stuff that I didn't understand as a child, I'm now starting to get as an adult. Have you had that happen, where some of the things that maybe you didn't understand in younger years, you grew into with a new understanding of an old awareness?
Yes, definitely. And it's an ongoing process. I'm still learning. I'm still searching. I'm still the student. I'll always be the student. And one of the things, I'm glad you touched on so many points that I want to share with you. I'm so excited. I wish we had more time.
There will be.
But first of all, like my experience with extraterrestrials, when I was young, I would see the spaceships. And eventually I started going with a group of 2 young ladies that they were receiving messages from extraterrestrials. And at first they didn't understand what was happening. They took these girls to the doctor and they were giving them like epilepsy drugs and all kinds of stuff, and they couldn't put their finger on it until eventually that's how these two couples met, because they were at the same doctor's office and they were sharing and trading notes of like, well, there might be something to it, and these girls might not be crazy. So eventually they started putting attention to the messages they were receiving, and these beings asked them to meet at this beach, which eventually that's where we would gather, and that's where we would meditate, and the spaceships would show up, and it was amazing. And they got to see the beings. I didn't physically ever see the extraterrestrials. I did see the ships, and just I have amazing stories. But we always wonder, and I've seen all those shows on TV, many of them very well documented, about certain patterns and things that point out that there have been extraterrestrials in our past and so on. And now last year, the Pentagon admitted that the UFOs are real. Because when I was a kid, that was like, no, you're all crazy. But now even like the people that would be the first one to deny it are now having no other way out but to admit the truth, because there's no way to hide the sun with just your finger. But one of the things that and this is maybe just me, but if let's say I wanted to learn about Jamie Clark, I can sit down with Bob and ask and whatnot. But wouldn't it be better to ask Jamie Clark, hey, what are you all about? Like, what's going on? And that's what happened in this contact group that I'm a part of, which is Rama. We technically, as a group, we ask them directly, and they respond. So this is not like, oh, it could be this, it could be that. It's hearing it from the horse's mouth. And it's amazing because, first of all, there's over 60 different species that are currently visiting the Earth, and with all different kind of intentions. But one of the things that they share with us, like you mentioned, they try to select species that look similar to us, because that's easier for us. Because first of all, if you're going to meet these beings, I don't care if you think they're the coolest people, the nicest people in the universe. Like, if you're going to meet face to face with them, you're going to be scared. Like, I don't care how tough you are or how brave, like, it's just natural. It's something unprecedented, and it's hard enough as it is. So to meet this person, and instead of seeing a humanoid, a person that looks like a human, you see this being that looks like a reptile, or like something that's kind of scary for us. Like, that's harder for us to go ahead and accept. But and the thing is, they don't look like us. We look like them, because we are a physical, metaphysical, emotional, spiritual experiment that they created. Our world is part of an experiment that happened 1,200 million years ago. And what they tell us, this is from messages that have been received, is that we live in a physical universe of 7 dimensions. And just like in music, after the 7 musical note, there's an octave. So in vibration and dimensions, there's an octave. So there's another universe that's parallel to this one. That's the mental universe. And this is where the true archangels, seraph, and all the angels come from this mental universe. They're not physical, they're mental. And the mental universe created the physical universe. This is not the first universe or the first creation. There have been many before, and there will be many after. But these beings are our creators as the universe. And the universe that created them is the spiritual universe. So each universe is inside each one. And what they tell us is that these mental beings, when they created the physical universe with all the 7 dimensions, they were on the first civilizations that existed, they were so close, leading them and teaching them and sharing with them, that they, first of all, immediately evolved and grew tremendously. But they were handheld so much and so carefully guided that at some point they became very mental, like their creators or our creators, very mental. So they got to a certain level of evolution, and they were very spiritual mentally, but not spiritual spiritually. So they understood things, but they didn't necessarily feel it or connect spiritually. They were at a rut. They were stuck, and they couldn't evolve anymore. And they had a big council trying to figure out what went wrong. I mean, we gave them everything. We taught them all we knew. How come they're stuck? And it happens that at some point in their evolution, to overcome their different crises, just like we have experimented, and their different queries and quarrels and all that, they decided to set aside emotions and put them on the side to not have those determine the outcome. They just allowed logic and reason to rule, putting aside any emotion and any feelings. And that's where they went wrong. I'm sorry.
What if that's a competition for the artificial intelligence? There's no emotion. I will, and again, just my awareness is all I know. I do remote viewing and a variety of other things. But I will tell you, in the future, AI runs this entire planet. It will be a one world government. Technology is already there and all that good stuff. But my question is where are we going after this? Because notice, hey, they got a limit. Oh, really? Is all they could do? Oh, well, we're going to transcend that. We're going to go beyond it now. Because for me, it's ever growing, never, ever ending anywhere, ever. And just like you, I always say the same thing is we are always growth-seeking beings. No matter how many dreams, how many aspirations in life we have, once we attain them, we are more. Half the fun's the journey getting there. And we are, in that practical I'm right there with you, is we are the student teacher all the time. Hopefully you can learn from yourself while you're helping other people too, because then it's a win-win. And my job, my high is like you is I can't do it for them, but I will give them everything I do. And if they want to try it, put it to the test. And it might work. No guarantees, just like you, but I don't do the competition. I want to help people to help themselves. Because to me, nobody needs to be fixed. Nobody needs to be saved. Showing that power within, become more self-realized and begin to live life more than survive it. Now, have they talked about saving the planet?
Yes, actually. So back to, they had this problem. Like they couldn't evolve because they didn't have emotions anymore. They were just mental. So they had a certain ideas, and the solution was, well, this has happened because we've been involved in civilization's life, and by we, I mean, the archangels and all these beings from the mental universe, that they need to grow by themselves. So there was a big council, and the Hellel, the shiny ones, like they call them, and this is documented in different philosophies, religions, cultures. And in a nutshell, they decided that they wanted to experiment and try a different evolution pattern than what was happening currently. So they first thought about using some of the existing civilizations and just changing the evolution structure on them. But that wasn't fair, according to some people, because it's like if you're in a game, a football game, and the rules are you throw the ball and you score, and whoever scores more wins the game. And you're, I don't know, in the second quarter or third quarter, and suddenly the referee comes out and says, you know what, change the rules. Whoever has the most points loses. Like, you can't do that, right? Mid-game. So they argued and they said, okay, so how are we going to solve this? So they decided to experiment in planets that had no future, planets that had been destroyed, and they would experiment in an alternative time. So not the real time, but like in a parallel universe, so to speak. So there were 8 planets that were selected. These planets were from the galaxies that surround Andromeda, and there's galaxies that are orbiting that. So they chose a planet out of each of these, total of 8. And these were planets that had no future, they had been destroyed, and one of them was planet Earth. So they tell us that 1,200 million years ago, planet Earth was destroyed by meteorites and asteroids, and it was just turned into dust. There was nothing left of the planet. So some beings had the permission to go back in time. They say that time is like a spiral ascending. And at some point, they went from this part through wormholes and interdimensional time travel, and they were allowed to go back right before the Earth and these other 7 planets were destroyed and prevent the planets from being destroyed. So when they did this, they created an alternative timeline. So the real time kept going this way, but now they created an alternative universe where they were going to experiment these new rules that they were going to implement for the evolution to try to find out and figure out what they were missing. And the whole plan was, once we learn what went wrong and we figured it out, we just, pull the gold or the findings out of it, and we cancel the whole project, and like it never existed, because technically the Earth had been destroyed, didn't have any future, so they can always go back and just shut that project down. And what's interesting about that is I've been doing some research, and this is science, they have aged how old the universe is. And you can Google this, how old is the universe? And I can't remember if it's like 18 billion years,
give or take.
Something. But there's something that science can't explain. There are stars that are, let's say, 21 billion years old, which is impossible. How could there be stars that are older than the universe? So one of the things that is being mentioned is because there was this alternative time where this other timeline happened, and that's where there's this time disconnect, so to speak. And what's interesting is that there's different cultures that speak of this. Like in the Easter Island, they explained it in their folklore, very simple, but very clear. They said that God created the earth in this egg, and they experimented love and forgiveness, so that if this ended up being something good, they could crack the egg and it would pour and benefit the rest of the universe. They are talking about this in all different cultures because they have been since in 13.8 billion years according to science. And I forget the name of the stars, but there's these stars that are older. That's just amazing to me. So they saved the planets, and they started what we call the cosmic plan. So the plan was to experiment and try to find and remember what they had forgotten, how to feel emotions, how to feel passion. And once they learned, the original plan was to shut off the experiment, turn it off. But out of these 8 planets, 4 ended up destroying themselves again. And then 3 ended up being a copy of the previous evolution patterns because they were so engaged and so involved with these civilizations, teaching them wrong from right and not to go this way and do this and do that, that they were so close in communication with them that they just were a bad copy of what they already had. The only planet where they lost control of the experiment and where anything is possible has been planet Earth, because it's the only one where at some point, first of all, they sent 2 species or 2 extraterrestrials, one from the Pleiades and one from Orion, to watch over us and keep an eye on the experiment. And at some point, they were affected by our emotions, that it really took them off balance, and they were not prepared. They're super evolved beings, very smart, very mental, but they had no experience dealing with emotion. So what happened is many of them ended up becoming gods over us and having their own people that they would war against each other through different towns. Many of them fell in love with human beings, where they committed something that was prohibited, which was having sexual intercourse with humans. And that's where the hybrids came, like the people from Atlantis. And it was a mess. It got to the point where, like an experiment, what happens if you're having this, if you're in a nuclear reactor and then you have radiation leak? You shut everything down and you quarantine it. And that's what happened to us. So, mind you, there was one of the entities, one of these mental beings, these archangels, the famous Lucifer, that he was against this cosmic plan. Because in his mind, he had his civilizations that he had created and he had guided, which one of them was from Orion. And the leader of the Orions his name was Satanel, and which was a reptilian, a big, like 3 meters tall, white reptile.
Oh, I've seen
and he conspired against the plan because he was against it. He felt that his pupils should have the opportunity to evolve, and how these guys that come from nothing, meaning us humans, were going to eventually evolve and become even better than his predecessors or his pupils. So he was always against that, and he conspired and he did a lot of things to really mess up the plan. And eventually it got there was such a big rub and friction among them that the Orions attacked the Pleiadians, and there was a big war in the universe where there was these reptilians, and not all reptilians are evil, but these particular reptilians wanted to destroy us, and Lucifer was behind them, trying to destroy us because he didn't feel that this was something that would benefit the universe. First of all, because they felt humans are so unpredictable that they could really hinder the balance of the universe because we were out of control. They couldn't control us. So fortunately for us, we had other extraterrestrials that fell in love with us. They fell in love, and not just, physically or sexually, but they fell in love with our soul. They started to see the value and the possibilities that we could bring for creation, and they defended us. And they fought, and there was a big battle, and that's talked about in the Bible when the angels of light and the angels of darkness had the fight. Eventually, the angels of darkness were submitted, and they were thrown into hell. You hear that in Greek mythology with the clash of the Titans, where the gods had to fight the Titans. Eventually, they beat them, and they sent them to hell. And that's what happened.
You bring up an interesting point, and that is, as cosmic beings, we tend to associate hell with Earth. If they're cosmic beings, it's everywhere. Have you gotten a different way of perceiving that? And again, just another thing is in that just my awareness is our brothers and sisters are not going to just step in and save us, and then we become something else, and they didn't have that intent. Their intent was to be loving and to help another, but what they didn't realize is who we were and what we could do. And I kind of equate that, like, if that were to happen and they were to save a planet, that would be kind of like us coming across a guy in a desert, and he's about to die. And graciously, you want to help them because you want to do anything you can in this capacity. However, that person that you just saved their life and did it for them was Hitler or Stalin. And now it's like, oh, I had the right intent because I wanted to help. But what I didn't realize is I helped them to get out of that mess, and then they went and become a bunch of planet stealers. has there been any universal laws that you've been aware of that have been shared?
Well, there are 7 universal laws, and I can share them. But what I'd like to explain, because you touched the topic of hell, and that's a very controversial word and whatnot. But what the guides tell us is, once these reptilians from Orion were defeated, they were deported. Guess where? To Earth.
Why?
Because it had 2 functions. First of all, as a punishment, because they were being naughty and caused all these havoc, right? But second of all, because one of the points for the cosmic plan was to create a different evolution pattern, a pattern where there would be antagonic forces that would conspire against humanity, making it difficult and almost impossible to learn and to grow and to reach any knowledge. That's why all the famous knowledge places like Alexandria, the library was destroyed. Recently, in the war in Iraq, all the monuments, all the story, all the historical was destroyed. When the Spanish invaded Mexico, all the manuscripts that they got a hold of got burned and destroyed, because there is this force that was put in our planet to try to overcome and make it as almost impossible for us to grow spiritual. Because in the past, the other species or the other civilizations had it easy. Everything was given to them. So what was different with us, they would make it as hard as possible, because there's a principle in science. They say to every force, there's an equal force, but in opposite direction. So they wanted to create a force of oppression so hard and so difficult that it would create the conditions, just like coal, when it's under pressure, it ends up becoming the most precious diamond. And humanity, we are that precious diamond, that we are being created through all these oppression, all this negativity that's conspiring against us, and that's real. And demons and everything, that's what these forces are. That's what they're here for, to at the end shape us. But the story of humanity, if you've heard the story of Joseph from the Bible, Joseph is humanity, where he had his brothers, which are all these different extraterrestrial races, that they conspired against Joseph. They trapped them, they sold them in slavery, they made him suffer, and they did the most horrible things to him, where he was in the dungeon. That's where we've been. And our mission, our lesson is, first of all, to remember that, to grow, to open our eyes, and I mean all, our third eyes, like our consciousness. And eventually, the greatest, like the final exam for us is going to be to forgive our brothers, just like Joseph did. Because if there is one teaching that has changed humanity, is teachings of Jesus, where even when he was crucified and killed, his last words were, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they're doing." His last words were of forgiveness and love. And that's where we have to get to.
And I think that that's a big part, is it's not easy to go love and light when things aren't so positive. But in a literal and a symbolic way, he knew he was going to the next phase. He was going into the next universe, or whatever that dimension is, to go, hey, forgive them for who they are, because, oh yeah, I'm a droplet in the ocean, and the ocean is me. Oh, so I'm everything. There became that kind of universality. And I got to have you back, because my thing is, I got an insatiable hunger for this. With the planets and those areas, the galaxies that you're with and aware of, what about the infinity other galaxies that we haven't addressed yet? That's why I'm like, oh, there's so much more. Woo! Fede, thank you so much for being a guest and sharing your knowledge. I appreciate it. And if you're okay, we'll get another time and get you back here. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm in. I love it.
Where we're at. Excellent. Do me a favor, let people know how we can get a hold of you, please.
Yeah.
You can find me through my website, Federico Eriksson. That's with a K and 2 S's. extraterrestrials.com. I have a Roku channel called Five Little Stones. It's free access. You go on Roku and search it, and you can add it. And I'm adding content as much as possible. And also, I'm in Instagram, Jedi_Fede, F as in Frank, E, D as David, E. I'm also on YouTube, Federico Eriksson. I try to share the interviews like the one I have with you, Jamie. It's on YouTube. And I'm on Facebook. So make sure go to my website if you're interested in these topics, because I'm thinking of having a seminar maybe on March 21st about the cosmic plan, where we can go into more detail of the information that we've received from extraterrestrials of this cosmic plan and where we come from, where we're going, and how to make our life better, at least evolve and get to the next stage.
All right, have some fun along the way, man. That's the point. Awesome.
We can get crazy with that one too, because if he's going to have a seminar or something and it's got any kind of an internet connection, we can transmit it right through here.
I love it. Yes, I'm down.
It's that easy.
Offline and make it happen.
Simple. Yeah, just keep in touch. Anyone out there too, and on the Pyramid One channel on YouTube, you can also get a copy of this tomorrow. And if there's any other information that you need, like his information, how to get in touch with him, how to find his website, whatever, doesn't matter. Write to Pyramid One Radio at AOL.com. Comes right into us. I'll send you a copy. No problem. See, we can do that. Of course, it'll keep me up for a few hours, but hey, that's the way it goes.
You're always amazing, man. You orchestrate everything beautifully. I appreciate all that you do, Bob.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Well, yeah. What Federico was talking about, I'm serious. He's only 1/3 of the way through.
Right.
We've had over 1,100 guests, maybe 1,200 guests on the network. And out of all those people that I've spoken to, I would say a good 20% of them are speaking about the same thing. I mean, this is real. People don't get it, at least not yet. They're kind of sort of, I mean, Fede, you must feel this. They're getting into it, sort of. They're not.
Because this is the time. This is the time.
Right. It's like the plane, let me see if I can pull it up here for 2 seconds. A strange, long, cylindrical object was spotted over New Mexico on Sunday by an American Airlines pilot. And it still remains a mystery until this afternoon, when the Pentagon turned around and said, oh, it was real. See? So it's not that far out. I mean, they're going to start coming out of the closet soon. It's like,
yeah, funny but true. Right. 2020 was a year that I've never seen that many people getting video and all of these things of all these brothers and sisters, these extraterrestrials go. Of course, a lot of them can be CGI, but there might be one that's real out of all of those. And if there's only one, it's real. Mm-hmm. That's the point. And I think that
seeing it's amazing, but what's really important, it's what's behind that, like the message and the knowledge that they can share with us. And like I said, the group I'm a part of, what we do, we get together and we have communication with them, so that it's not like, oh, look, the pretty object flying. Like, we actually get messages from them, and there's experiences where they come down and they create these sendras, which we can talk about in maybe another occasion, but they're dimensional portals, and you can walk through them and go anywhere. So there's physical evidence. There's nowadays, it's differently than from other periods where there was this one contactee where, this one person, it's like the chosen one and gets. No, this is for everyone that's open to having that communication. This is a time, and I invite anyone that's interested, reach out to me and I can plug you in our groups. We are just trying to share this message, and although the extraterrestrials, they choose who they communicate with, I have nothing to do with that, and I'll never claim that. It's up to them. But there are things that we can do to become a better candidate to potentially being in touch with them directly and seeing them physically, and maybe even, why not, go to different planets. So there's some amazing things happening right now.
And that's, another thing. That's why we see it takes a lot of guts to come here and have a life experience on this planet, because it isn't so easy. It's a very heavy vibrational pattern. And with that, that emotional state is what can buckle a lot of people. That's what I'm saying. Notice a lot of the ETs, the very thing, the quality that they didn't have, they really wanted to work with. Isn't that kind of weird? So, it's that balance point to go, yeah, but even on a cosmic way, that kind of a connection is there. And then, we get into what about 100 gazillion trillion light years away, because it's still right here, right now. What about those worlds? What about those dimensions? And it becomes a unification of consciousness where a lot of us are now being brought together as, in this case, a planetary consciousness, that the entire planet's consciousness has been reset. It has not been a country against a country. It's a virus against the world. Neutrality, break them down, and then open them up and see what you have. So again, not being too crazy. Oh yeah, we've been going to Mars for quite some time. There is life there, water, all that kind of stuff. Fede, thank you. Bob, brother, always good.
Big hug.
I love you, man. We'll have you again.
Thank you so much.
You guys are the men. Serious. Remember, everybody, there is Jesus. There is God. There is a God. And there is love. Remember all three. It will make you feel better. It will make you whole with the rest of the universe. God bless y'all. Bob Charles.